Hey, welcome to my channel. My name is Savannah, and I'm going to be giving you some thriller recommendations for this fall season, and really any time of year because I read thrillers year round. So let's get into the video. A little side note here, I live in Texas and it is hot as hell outside, much to my sadness. So I am suffering and sweating for this video in this long sleeve shirt. It was in the 80s today, which really is very sad for me because I love fall vibes, love fall aesthetics. I have my Bath & Body Works candle over here. It is sweet cinnamon pumpkin and it smells delicious. And I have on my Moody lipstick. So anyway, feeling the fall vibes. Sad that I don't have seasons in Texas, but that's another discussion for another day. I am a relatively slow reader, and this sort of made me worry to make videos for YouTube for a really long time because a lot of booktubers read like 20, 30 books in 1 month, and that's just not possible for me because honestly, I have 3 jobs and I am a college student, so my life is hectic and busy, and I really go to books when I just need to wind down. I cherish my moments with books, you know, they've got my back. They're always a fun time. But, you know, I can't read a billion books a month, so I figured I would still make a YouTube channel though because I'm super passionate about talking about books that I love. So without further ado, I will give you some thriller recommendations that I really enjoyed that I hope you guys enjoy. Alright, the first book I want to talk about is Pretty Girls by Karin Slaughter, and I actually gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars because holy crap, it is such a book. I loved it. It was so good. Trigger warning though, there is a lot of violence in here. The way she writes her violence is a lot. So you may want to look up some trigger warnings and make sure you can handle this book. But anyway, this book is about 2 sisters, Lydia and Claire, who are estranged and haven't talked to each other in 20 years. After the disappearance of their 19-year-old sister, their family fell apart. The 2 sisters now are living totally different lives. Lydia is dating an ex-con, she has a daughter, and she's a recovering drug addict. And Claire is married to a multi-millionaire architect, so she's living a lavish lifestyle, so very different. Anyway, their paths collide though when another girl in their town goes missing, and it is eerily similar to what happened to their sister. So the 2 sisters meet up, they start digging, and they start seeing some dark, creepy, gross secrets about their family. So it gets a little intense, and that is an understatement. Karin Slaughter is an extremely good writer, but wow, she writes some graphic stuff. So if you're not okay with reading violence in books, especially against women, I would pass on this book. But I was super attached to the characters. They felt super real, and I could not wait to find out what happened at the end. The suspense in this book was insane. I highly recommend it, and definitely it was a 5-star read for me. Okay, the next book I want to recommend is Stillhouse Lake by Rachel Caine, and I gave this book a 4.5 stars. I was super intrigued by this book as soon as I heard people talking about it. The premise is there's this woman named Gwen Proctor. She was formerly known as Gina Royal, who is married to Melvin Royal. Now the catch is Melvin Royal was a serial killer, and this was discovered by a drunk driver crashing into their garage and the police walking into the garage and seeing a dead human being, which is not good. Anyway, she was taken into question, separated from her 2 children, and they found her not guilty. But unfortunately, she was stalked and doxxed by internet trolls who are trying to get back at her. They think she's still guilty, and she's trying to find a safe place for her family. She settles at Stillhouse Lake, and finally things feel like they're getting back to normal, and she's feeling hopeful, but then some stuff happens. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give away anything. I highly recommend this book. Rachel Caine's writing is very gripping. I do want to say that the narration was a little bit annoying because Gwen would have continually the same thoughts over and over. But, I mean, it makes sense. It's realistic how it was written that she would have these same worries. I just got a little tired of reading them. But overall, this book was incredible. Her 2 children did seem a little bit too old for their ages. I believe one was 10, one was about 15, maybe 14. But it does make sense they had to grow up faster because they were continually needing to change their identities. So I would still definitely give this book a go. It's a great book, and honestly, my other comments are just really nitpicking. But the climax of this book was insane. It was awesome. I do want to say I read the second book, highly recommend it. It's a series, and I can't wait to read more. I am about to start reading the third book. But anyway, in the second book called Killman Creek, which by the way, rated 5 stars, it was incredible. It really stepped it up. The climax in this was insane. I was flipping the pages so fast, and I stayed up till like 2 a.m. reading this book on a school night that I had to get up really early for, but I just had to know what was going to happen. It was insane. And I felt like the stakes were a lot higher. And also, I love the narration in this book because it was from multiple perspectives. So we get a little lens into the children's minds. I loved their stories as well as another character. So I highly recommend this series, highly recommend these 2 books. The rest of the series is super highly rated, so I can't wait to continue. And I actually have the book right here, the third, which is called Wolf Hunter River, I believe. The last book I want to recommend is called The Woman in the Window, and I gave this 4 stars. This book is about an agoraphobic doctor whose family has unfortunately left her, and she's alone in her house. And she's popping some pills, she's drinking some wine, kind of mixing the two. To keep herself busy and entertained, she starts spying on the neighbors, which is low-key kind of creepy, but makes for a really good story. So anyway, she one day sees something very suspicious that looks like a murder, and she can't figure out if it was in her imagination or if it actually happened. So she's an unreliable narrator, which I know can drive some people nuts. I really liked it. I thought the story was really interesting. I love the atmosphere, how most of it takes place in one location, and you really get to look at things through her eyes. This book has a very Hitchcockian feel, and I really appreciated it. And actually, the main character is super into vintage film. So if you know anything about old movies, the author references them a lot. I did not. I am personally not really educated on old film, but I still enjoyed the book and found it really entertaining. Finally, I just want to mention Riley Sager. He's an incredibly talented thriller writer, and I have loved all the books I've read by him so far. I've read Lock Every Door, Home Before Dark, and I am actually currently reading The Last Time I Lied, and I'm really loving it. So unless the ending is a letdown, I think I'm really gonna love this book. I have Final Girls over here, and I can't wait to start reading it. And I'm actually going to do a whole video dedicated to Riley Sager's books, so stay tuned for that. Over in my little stack of books, I have Salem's Lot by Stephen King, which I can't wait to read. I actually am a little ashamed to admit I have not read much of Stephen King, so I'm super excited to read one of his OGs. I have The Cabin at the End of the World, and I actually have read this book. It was way too sad for me though, so I didn't like it. I know a ton of people on BookTube love it, but it was just so sad. So I could not give it a very high rating. And then like before I said Final Girls, and then this is the third book in the Stillhouse Lake series. So please drop any comments below of what your favorite thrillers are. I would love recommendations, and I can't wait to talk to you all in my next video.